Hey, Michelina here, and welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to be diving into a SolidWorks video for tips and tricks for sketches. Sketches are the most fundamental part of your 3D modeling practice and design, so it's important that we make sure that your 2D sketches are clean, they're easy to understand, you're dimensioning what's actually important in your design, and that generally we're efficiently creating these sketches with some of these tips and tricks. So let me know in the comments below how many of these tips and tricks you already know and use in your daily CAD practice. All right, let's go. When we start a sketch, we're going to want to make sure we have the right settings for our construction geometry. Again, construction geometry, those are the dashed lines that you use to help design out your sketch, but isn't actually part of the enclosed profile. They're like little helper lines you can use to create references, dimensions, etc. Let's make sure we have two specific things set up for this. If you go to Tools and we go to Customize, we want to make sure we have two keyboard shortcuts enabled. The first one is to enable a keyboard shortcut to automatically create these construction lines. And so it's a little tricky here. It's not called construction line. It's actually called center line in this here. So I have set it up to be the letter K on my keyboard. And the second one is you want to be able, you're going to be converting regular lines to construction geometry lines all the time. And you want to get that to be a shortcut too. So if you go to construction geometry, I have created that to be the letter G here. So we're going to be using those two shortcuts. Alrighty. And now let's dive into some more tips and tricks. So I'm creating a sketch on the front plane here. And the first thing I want to go to is use that new keyboard shortcut. So I'm clicking K on the keyboard, and right away this is creating a construction line. The other way to do this, which is the non-keyboard shortcut way, is to click line, and then in options, click go for construction here. And that's the other way to create it. The part that I'm gonna quickly make out today will be a revolved shape to create like a pot. Actually, I have a 3D printed pot right here. So this is what we'll be wanting to create. So again, when doing a revolved solid geometry here, we want to define the center axes and then create that one part of the outer shell. Another tip and trick that we're going to do is for your center line, for your axes, if you want, you can make this infinite length. So you don't have this little blue dot on the top. And so no matter where you are in the sketch, it's going to show your full screen here. So I'm going to click infinite length, and we have that there. I'm going to delete this line. And now let's create our pot. Also note, sometimes when using infinite length, it breaks that relation to your origin. So do the infinite length, and then we can click the origin. Another tip is you can select multiple sketch entities by holding your shift button on your keyboard. So I'm holding shift, and I have already clicked this dot, and holding shift, clicking that line. And now I've selected both points, which opens up my left pane menu, and right away I can click this option here, add relations, make coincident, and that line is now going straight through my origin, which will be a great point for my revolution axes. Let's start drawing in the pot now. So the pot is going to be a line here and a line here. I'm going to use one of my favorite commands, offset entities, to give that some thickness for our enclosed profile. Let's make that 3 millimeters thick. And I want to cap the ends of that geometry to make sure it's an enclosed profile. And that looks great. Next tip is dimensioning. I see a lot of the time folks dimensioning the inner radius like this. So the radius on the inside of the pot is right now showing as 90 millimeters. Remember, we want to dimension what we actually care about. And what we care about is not technically the radius, but the diameter, which is, radius times 2. But let's just dimension the radius, so that's what we want. So to do that, and it's really cool with this center line, is we can click the point you want to measure. And we click the point, and then click the line you want to measure to, the center line, in this order. And when you pull it across, it's going to show diameter. So this is the diameter I care about. Great, let's make that 170, and let's dimension some other stuff. You can hear my pet bird Faraday in the background. I want to make this a single cut to minimize my video editing, so I'm going to keep going. Excuse the noise. And let's dimension that here. Great. And so that's looking pretty good. You know, why is this currently undefined? It's because we don't have this angle defined, and we can throw an angle here. And remember, to do an angle, you saw I click one line and click the other line, and we have our angle, and that fully dimensions our sketch. When a sketch is fully dimensioned, which means fully constrained, your sketch will turn black. Awesome. All right. So we finished the sketch. I'm going to dive back into the sketch. Another tip and trick you want to do is, if you want to do some fine tuning of your dimensions with, you know, without retyping, like, you know, up here 171, 172, 173, you can use your scroll wheel on your mouse to be able to scroll through the dimensions. To do this, you need to make sure your mouse is hovered over the modify dimension box field. And if you scroll, you can see I'm scrolling upwards and it's incrementing. Oh, but look, it's so slow to increment. It's incrementing by like 0.1 millimeters. You can actually change that. If you go to here, you can do reset spin increment value, and let's just change that to, I don't know, 10 millimeters. And now when I do one scroll, click wheel up, it's going up by 10. So really quickly here, I can like mess around with my dimensions and kind of play with it. I'm gonna do the same thing here. Let's just make this taller. And look, it defaulted back to the 0.1. If you want to make something else a default, you can just click this checkbox here, make default. And so when you do this scrolly increment again, it will default to the right value. And did it default? Please default. Cool. And here is our sketch, and we can, again, to do a revolve feature, you want to select that center axis. Solidworks is smart and figured out that was the center line that we wanted to use to revolve it there. Awesome, and we have the start of our pot. Let's jump into the next tip. So I'm going to delete this, and let's start a new sketch again on the front plane. All right, and I have this as a keyboard shortcut as well. I have N for normal, or to make it your screen normal to the plane so you're looking right at your sketch, you can click here. So we have N, and let's go. So let's say I want to create a machined part that has some holes, and we want to dimension the holes, and the holes are maybe kind of close to the edge of the part, and you want to just make sure that there's, like, you know, enough material there. And so I'm kind of worried about this hole, and we can control and try to figure out what that dimension is. To figure out what this distance here is, so click on not the center mark of the hole, but the actual circle hole, then click the edge, and we can drop this dimension off to the side. And what we can do is control where the liters of the dimension go. So in the options, if you go to the left menu here, go to liters, and you can control this arc condition, and we want the minimum condition for that minimum amount of material. There we go. And that's how you change that dimension. Let's say I want to know the dimension between these two circles. I want to know, like, the material amount between them. I'm clicking outside circle, dropping this dimension over here. And I'm like, okay, that's fine. I don't really care about the center to center difference. If I go to liters again, now there's going to be two that appear. And so we can do the max condition, which is, you know, the outside to the outside. But again, we want that material. So I'm going to go click min, switch it to that circle and to the other circle, minimum. And that is our material here. All right, the next tip and trick to make your sketches really clear and organized is we want to make sure that you are labeling your sketches and your dimensions. And so let's say I have a series of holes here, and they are all the same size, so I'm setting an equals relationship, and I want to note that these holes are tapped holes. So these are metric M5 tapped holes. You can make a note directly here in dimension text. So you click here and you can start typing here, which will start adding text right there, but I like to click the enter button and start it on the next line. So M5 tapped holes. And this is just a comment or a note for whoever is opening up your sketches. And once you have a ton of dimensions, this is really helpful. Let's make this even more clear. Let's start using colors in your sketch. And don't worry about changing the colors, because if you want to see the blue versus black for undefined versus defined, you can switch back and forth between those modes. Let's say I want all of these tapped holes or anything that has a post-secondary operation to be a certain color. I'm going to make those pink. And how did I open up this menu? That was really fast. You highlight the sketch entity, and then you go down to this bar where you can click this paintbrush, which is line color. If you do not see that, you can right click on the pane here and to show it. So it is part of the toolbars and is part of the line format toolbar. So make sure that's on too. And so again, holding shift, I want to select both of these circles at the same time. Go to the paintbrush, and let's make those holes green. And all right, this looks fine to me. Let's fully constrain the well, no, let's change the box too. So if I want to highlight all four sides of the box, I can actually click on the inside of the box. You see how it highlights it in orange, and I'm going to change that all to I guess pink as well. Okay, so if we fully define the box, so I'm gonna have the box here, this be on the midpoint of this line, midpoint there, and we do some dimensions. Whoa, Lena, like all your, beautiful colors just disappeared. Like, that's problematic. Well, like I said, we can switch between the color mode versus the definition color mode, and that is this toggle here, so color display mode. And so if I click that, I have my colors again. I can see, okay, these are what these colors mean, and if I want to see if my sketch is defined or undefined, I can click this mode, and you can see that the rectangle portion is constrained, and if I'm trying to drag it, it's not moving around. Unlike these, blue unconstrained things, you can see these are moving around and changing size there. All right. And the last thing I want to show you is the super awesome automatic sketch solver feature, and this has saved my butt many a time. So let's say your sketch is over constrained, so you have too much things in your sketch where it's over defined and there's conflicting things in Solidworks. So I'm going to purposely break this sketch by adding this diagonal line and then forcing this diagonal line's dimension to be driving and like a forcing function. Now there's too many things broken. We got a dimension here, a dimension up here. Solidworks can fix this for us. You can see here in this, it says overdefine and this warning sign with the red text. If you double click on it, that's going to open up the Sketch Expert tool. So on here on the left, we can see this Sketch Expert tool. You start by clicking Diagnose, and SolidWorks will go through and find all possible or nearly most possible solutions. Sometimes I have solved some problems that SolidWorks hasn't figured out or calculated, but these are most of the mathematical solutions. And so, to fix this problem, SolidWorks shows me 4 solutions, and you can click through the solutions and pick your favorite to implement. So this solution here, and it shows you what it's doing. It is deleting this distance here. This solution number 2 is deleting the 150 dimension there. This one is deleting the dimension that broke it originally. And this one is deleting this vertical dimension here. You could probably tell which one is the missing solution. There's other solutions, such as it could have deleted this horizontal on the top, but that's okay. I say, okay, actually, you know, the vertical, you know, I don't care, that's actually the thing that's ruining. I don't really care if this is vertical, so I'm gonna click accept, and now the sketch is fixed and the sketch is working. Because that vertical is gone, if we mess with this feature here, so I'm using the scrolly wheel again to make it bigger, you can see how that changes and how deleting that vertical relation has changed the part here. Pretty cool stuff. There is a point, again, you know, Solidworks will break if I continue to make this bigger and bigger, and broken. So we can have, you know, Solidworks try to fix this again, or, well, right now it says no solution, so, you know, we really messed up. So I'm just going to backtrack this and say, okay, that is my final part there. Awesome. Some other quick things when drawing sketch lines, another tip and trick is if you want to end your sketch line, you can double click your mouse to end it versus clicking the escape key. So let's say I want to draw a line at the diagonal and then end it, so you know it auto starts your next line. Double click and it will end the line and keep what you already have there. Hi, Birdie. Awesome. Those are my SolidWorks tips and tricks. Let me know which one of these that you use every day. If you use all of these, what are some of your favorite SolidWorks sketching tips and tricks? Post them on the comments below. And yeah, I hope you learned something new today.